from their honeymoon to move into their tiny new flat. "Care to go to bed?" the husband asked. "Shh," said his blushing bride. "These walls are paper thin. The neighbors will know what you mean. Next time, ask me in code like, 'Have you left the washing machine door open?' instead." So the following night, the husband asks, "I don't suppose you left the washing machine door open, darling?" "No," she snapped back. "I definitely shut it." Then she rolled over and fell asleep. The next morning, she woke up feeling a little frisky herself, so she nudged her husband and said, "I think I did leave the washing machine door open after all." "Don't worry," said the man. "It was only a small load, so I did it by hand." An old man, Mr. Smith, was living the last of his life in a nursing house. One day he appeared to be very sad and depressed. Nurse Lisa asked if there was anything wrong. "Yes, Nurse Lisa," said Mr. Smith. "My private parts died today and I am very sad." Knowing her patients were forgetful and sometimes a little crazy, she replied, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Smith. Please accept my condolences." The following day, Mr. Smith was walking down the hall with his private parts hanging out of his pajamas when he met Nurse Lisa. "Mr. Smith," she said, "you shouldn't be walking down the hall like that. Please put your private parts back inside your pajamas." But Nurse Lisa replied, "Mr. Smith, I told you yesterday that my private parts died." "Yes, you did tell me that, but why are they hanging out of your pajamas?" asks Nurse Lisa. "Well," he replied, "today's the wee-wee." Terry was talking to his friend at the bar and said, "I don't know what to get my wife for her birthday. She has everything, and besides, she can't afford to buy anything she wants, so I'm stuck." His friend said, "I have an idea. Why don't you make up a certificate saying she can have 60 minutes of great eggs? Anyway, she wants it. She'll probably be thrilled." Terry decided to take his friend's advice. The next day at the bar, his friend said, "Well, did you take my suggestion?" "Yes, I did," Terry replied. "Did you like it?" "Oh yes," she jumped up, thanked me, kissed me on the forehead, and ran out the door yelling, "I'll be back in an hour." Two woman friends had gone out for a girls' night out and had been decidedly over enthusiastic on the cocktail. Incredibly drunk and walking home, they suddenly realized they both needed to pee. They were very near a graveyard and one of them suggested they do their business behind a headstone or something. The first woman had nothing to wipe with, so he took off her panties, used them and threw them away. Her friend, however, was wearing an expensive underwear set and didn't want to ruin her, but was lucky enough to salvage a large from a bird that was on a grave and proceeded to wipe herself with it. After finishing, they made their way home. The next day, the first woman's husband called the other husband and said, "This damn girls' night out have got to stop. My wife came home last night without her panties." "That's nothing," said the other. "Mine came back with a sympathetic heart stuck between the cheeks of her butt that said, 'From all of us at the fire station, we'll never forget you.'" A woman with no clothes jumped into a taxi. The taxi driver starts at her. looking her over from top to bottom. The woman is offended and asks the taxi driver, "What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a woman with no clothes before?" The taxi driver responds, "Oh, it's not the fact that you're egg that bothers me." "Then why are you looking at me that way?" She retorts, "Well, Mom, I'm looking at you and thinking." On their first night together, a newly the couple get ready for bed. The new bride comes out of the bathroom all showered and wearing a beautiful robe. The proud husband says, "My dear, we are married now, you can open your robe." The beautiful young woman opens her robe and he is astonished with her beauty. He exclaims. "Oh my goodness, you're so beautiful. Let me take a picture." Puzzled, she asks, "My picture?" He answers, "Yes, my dear, so I can carry your beauty next to my heart forever." She smiles and he takes her picture and then he heads into the bathroom to shower. He comes out wearing his robe and the new wife asks, "Why are you wearing a robe? We are married now." The man opens his robe and she exclaims, "Oh my, let me get a picture." He beams and asks why. She answers, "So I can get it large." A woman woke in the middle of the night to find her husband missing from their bed. In the stillness of the house, she could hear a muffled sound downstairs. She went downstairs and looked all around, finally finding her husband in the basement. Crouched in the corner facing the wall and sobbing. "What's wrong with you?" she asked him. "Remember when your father caught us having sex when you were 18? He replied. "I remember he said I had two choices. I could either marry you or spend the next 20 years in prison." Baffled, she said, "Yes, I remember. So what?" The man responded, "I would have been a free man today." A man was approached by a co-worker at lunch who invited him out for a few beers after work. The man said that his wife would never go for it, that she didn't allow him to go drinking with the guys after work. The co-worker suggests a way to overcome that problem. When you get home tonight, sneak into the house, slide down under the sheets. Gently pull down your wife's panties and give her oral sex. Women love it, and believe me, she'll never mention that you were out late with the boys. So the man agreed to try it and went out and enjoyed himself. Late that night, she sneaked into the house, slid down under the sheets, gently slid down his wife's panties, and gave her oral sex. He moaned and groaned with pleasure, but after a little while he realized he had to take a leak. So he told her he'd be right back. He got out of bed and walked down the hall to the bathroom. When he opened the door and went in, he was very surprised to see his wife sitting on the toilet. "How did you get in here?" he asked. "Shh," she replied. "You'll wake my mother." There is a guy who really takes care of his body. He lifts weights and jogs 5 miles every day. One morning he looks into the mirror and admires his body. He noticed that he is really sunburned all over except one part, and he decides to do something about it. He goes to the beach completely undressed and buries himself in the sand except for the one part sticking out. Two little old ladies are strolling along the beach and one looks down and says, "There really is no justice in this world." The other little old lady says, "What do you mean?" The first little old lady say, "Look at that. When I was 10 years old, I was afraid of it. When I was 20 years old, I was curious about it. When I was 30 years old, I enjoyed it. When I was 40 years old, I asked for it. When I was 50 years old, I paid for it. When I was 60 years old, I prayed for it. When I was 70 years old, I forgot about it. And now that I'm 80 years, the diamond things are growing wild." A man's wife asks him to go to the store to buy some cigarettes, so he walks down to the store only to find it closed. So he goes into a nearby bar to use the vending machine. At the bar, he sees a beautiful woman and starts talking to her. They have a couple of beers and one thing leads to another and they end up in her apartment. After they've had their fun, he realized it's 3 a.m. and says, "Oh no, it's so late, my wife's going to kill me." He takes his shoes outside and rubs them in the grass and moves then proceeds home. His wife is waiting for him in the doorway and she's pretty pissed off. "Where have you been?" "Well, honey, it's like this. I went to the store like you asked, but they were closed. So I went to the bar to use the vending machine. I saw this great-looking chick there and we had a few drinks and one thing led to another and I ended up in the bed with her." She sees his shoes are covered with grass and says, "You're lying. You've been fishing again."